Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever noticed how men don't seem to miss you until you stop giving them everything? You know what I'm talking about? You were there, you were available, you were trying to show up in every way possible. You gave your time, your energy, your heart. But the moment you started pulling back, suddenly they remember you. They start calling more, they start texting more. It's like you hit pause and suddenly they're playing catch up. Here's the thing: men don't start missing you when you're right in front of them, doing everything they want. They start missing you when they realize you're no longer giving them access to your life. It's like they don't know what they had until it's gone. And I'm here to tell you, the moment you stop chasing, that's when they start running after you. Now, stick with me here, because I'm about to break down exactly what happens when you pull back and why that's the secret to making him miss you more than you ever thought possible. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Men start missing you when you stop trying to remind them of your worth. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where you're constantly explaining who you are and what you bring to the table? How many times have you found yourself doing more, texting more, calling more, showing up more, all in the hope that he would see your value, that he would finally understand how much you mean to him? Here's the hard truth: the more you try to prove your worth, the less it's actually felt. When you're constantly explaining your value, you're basically saying to him, "I'm not sure you can see me, so I need to show you." You're lowering your energy, your self-respect, and your standards just to get him to acknowledge something that should have been obvious to him in the first place. But here's what really happens. When you're overexerting yourself trying to be seen, you're not giving him the chance to see your worth for what it really is. You're just making it easier for him to take it for granted. The truth is, his acknowledgement of your worth should never come at the expense of you begging for it. You shouldn't have to perform for someone to see the value you bring into their life. The moment you stop over-explaining, you stop begging for validation, you stop giving more than what's reasonable, that's when the shift happens. That's when the energy changes. When you pull back and stop chasing his attention or his approval, you start letting the space and the distance speak for itself. You stop doing all the work and instead let him see the woman he's been ignoring all along. There's power in silence. There's power in not constantly reminding someone of your worth. When you detach emotionally, when you stop over justifying yourself, you allow them to experience the absence of your energy. You're no longer there to fill the gaps in his life that he hasn't acknowledged or appreciated. Now he starts realizing that the space you once filled is now empty, and he has to deal with that emptiness. He has to deal with the reality that he's taken you for granted, that he let someone like you slip through his fingers. The most powerful thing you can do in this situation is to step back and let him do the work. Let him reflect on who you are, what you offer, and whether he was truly valuing you all along. The moment you stop chasing him and over-explaining yourself, you create room for him to do the one thing he's been avoiding: see you for who you really are. And let's be honest, sometimes men need that distance. Sometimes the only way they're going to realize what they have in front of them is by having it temporarily taken away. When you're constantly there, when you're constantly showing up, it's easy for him to take you for granted. But when you're no longer available, when you no longer feel the need to justify your worth, that's when the alarm bells go off. That's when he starts questioning what went wrong and whether he's about to lose something special. You see, it's not just about doing less, it's about doing less with purpose. When you stop over-explaining, when you stop waiting for him to catch up, you're saying something powerful without speaking a word. You're saying, "I know my worth and I won't beg for it." And here's the kicker. The moment you stop begging for him to see it, that's when he starts to notice. That's when he starts to miss you. You don't have to shout your worth from the rooftops. You don't have to be constantly present, constantly available, constantly on call. Let your absence do the talking for you. Let your silence make him question whether he's been appreciating you the way he should have. Because here's the truth: if he doesn't miss you when you pull back, then maybe he wasn't really paying attention in the first place. But if he starts to feel that space, if he starts to recognize that the woman he once took for granted is now gone, that's when you know you've created the perfect opportunity for him to come to his senses. So stop trying so hard to prove your worth. Stop bending over backward to get him to recognize what you bring to the table. Let the distance speak for itself. Let him feel the absence of your presence. And watch how quickly he realizes he's been missing something priceless all along. Men start missing you when you get quiet instead of arguing. Think about the times you found yourself in a back and forth conversation with a man trying to make him see your point of view. You're talking, you're explaining, you're giving him every reason why you feel the way you do. But what's happening? Instead of him listening to you, he's getting defensive. Instead of him understanding where you're coming from, He's just trying to explain himself. All the while, you're left feeling unheard, unappreciated, and frustrated. Here's the reality. Arguing and constantly trying to prove your point rarely gets you what you want. The more you argue, the more you're essentially giving him permission to disrespect your peace. You're allowing him to dictate the terms of the conversation, forcing yourself to explain your feelings in ways that don't really get through to him. And while you might think this will somehow make him appreciate you more or understand you better, the opposite is often true. The more you argue, the less he's actually hearing you. The more you try to explain yourself, the more you dilute the strength of your words. And over time, all of that effort just becomes noise. But here's the kicker: the moment you get quiet, that's when things change. Silence is powerful in a way words just can't compete with. When you stop engaging in the argument, when you stop trying to convince him to see your perspective, it does something to the dynamic. It forces him to sit with his own thoughts, to sit with his own actions. It's no longer about you trying to make him understand. It's about him realizing that the conversation is over. The game has shifted, and now he's the one who's left with nothing but the reality of his actions. You've stopped giving him the energy he's used to. You've stopped begging for a response. And in that silence, he's forced to confront the truth of what's really going on. And let me tell you, that silence does more than words ever could. When you're arguing, it's like you're pouring energy into a bottomless pit. You may feel like you're making progress or getting closer to being understood, but the reality is you're just getting drained. But when you go silent, it's like pulling your energy back and keeping it for yourself. And that shift, my friends, is what gets his attention. You see, men are used to being engaged in the conversation. They're used to women trying to make things work, trying to talk things through, trying to solve the problems. But when you stop engaging, when you stop giving him the satisfaction of seeing you chase after him for clarity, that's when things start to change. Now, he's left wondering what happened. He's left trying to figure out why you're not responding the way you usually do. He's left with the consequences of his actions, and there's no easy way to avoid that reality. This is not about playing games or trying to manipulate the situation. It's about reclaiming your own peace and self-respect. When you argue with someone, you're essentially lowering your own energy to meet them where they are. But when you refuse to argue, when you simply stop talking, you're saying, I am not going to engage in this nonsense. I'm going to protect my peace. And if you want to be part of it, you'll have to show up differently. And here's the thing. Silence doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're afraid to speak your truth. It means you value your time and energy enough to stop wasting it on someone who isn't meeting you where you deserve to be met. It means you're done fighting for something that should come naturally. And when a man realizes that you're no longer willing to engage in the emotional back and forth, that's when he starts to wonder. That's when he starts to miss you. That's when he starts to regret not listening to you when you were trying to explain yourself. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you finally learned that your worth doesn't need to be defended. You don't need to prove it over and over again. It's just there in your actions, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you stop bending to fit someone else's idea of you. When you stop arguing, you stop lowering your vibration to meet someone else's confusion. And that clarity you gain, that's what draws him in. It forces him to take a step back and reflect. Because now he's not focused on winning an argument. He's focused on losing someone who's simply walking away from the drama. And the more you do this, the more you reclaim your energy, the more you protect your peace. When he sees that you won't engage in needless conflict anymore, that's when he starts realizing what he's about to lose. And that realization, it hits hard. It hits him with the knowledge that his actions, or lack thereof, have consequences. And he's going to have to face them without your constant explanations, without your voice always trying to clear the air. So when you get quiet, instead of arguing, you're not giving up on the relationship. You're giving up on the drama. You're giving up on trying to convince him to see you. You're letting him feel the weight of his own actions. And when he feels that weight, that's when he'll start missing you. Men start missing you when your life moves on without them. This one is powerful because it speaks to the heart of what most women don't realize. The best way to make a man miss you is to stop making him the center of your universe. When you're constantly waiting around, dropping everything to accommodate him, trying to fit him into your life at any given moment, you're giving away your energy, your time, and your sense of self. He doesn't see your value when he knows he's the focus of your life. He sees it when he realizes he's no longer the one, keeping you distracted from everything else that's important. The moment you start focusing on your own growth, your own joy, your own life, that's when things start to shift. You stop running after him, trying to make sure he's okay, trying to fix everything for him. Instead, you start putting your own needs first. And here's what happens, man. Men by nature often take a little too long to recognize the value of something until it's no longer there. So when you're not constantly around, when you're out living your life and building your world, he starts to feel that absence. He starts to miss the presence you once provided. And this is when the reality hits, when he realizes that the woman who used to be there, waiting for him to decide how much of you he wanted, is now out there living on her own terms. It's not that you're trying to make him miss you. It's that you've stopped putting him first in a way that neglects your own happiness. When you go out, pursue your passions, hang out with your friends, dive into your career, or just take time to nurture your own growth, it's like you're sending out this unspoken message that says, I'm not here to fill up your empty spaces. I'm too busy filling up my own. And suddenly he's wondering why you're not there like you once were. He starts questioning whether he's been taking you for granted, whether he's been acting like you were always going to be available, always going to be in the background, always going to put him ahead of everything else. But now that's no longer the case. You've learned the importance of your own life, your own dreams, your own pursuits. And guess what? Men notice when a woman starts living her life without constantly seeking validation from them. They notice when a woman stops being the one who's always trying to be the answer to his problems and instead starts solving her own. There's an undeniable shift in energy when a woman starts living on her own terms, and it makes him step back and take a long, hard look at the fact that you're not just there for the taking anymore. See, a lot of men are used to a woman constantly orbiting around them. They're used to the idea that no matter what's going on, she's going to be there when they need her. But when you stop making him the center of your world, when you start building your own life, something interesting happens. He starts realizing that his world, the one he's used to, is missing an important piece. And that piece is you. It's not about playing games or pretending you don't care. It's about realizing your own worth. It's about stepping into the space where you know that you have your own life. And that life doesn't need him to make it complete. It's about realizing that you don't have to wait for his approval, his attention, or his time to make you feel whole. When you do this, you stop feeding into the cycle of dependency. You stop putting him on a pedestal, and you start showing him that you're perfectly capable of thriving without him. And when he sees this, that's when he starts questioning why he didn't value you the way he should have before. When you start living your life fully, unapologetically, without hesitation, without the need for his constant approval, that's when he starts to understand that you're not just a woman in his life who's there to support him. You're a woman in his life who is also there to be supported, to be loved, to be valued just as much. And the moment he sees that you've moved on without him, that's when he'll truly start to miss you. There's something incredibly powerful about a woman who is comfortable in her own skin, who doesn't need to be constantly needed. It makes a man realize that he's not the only important thing in her life. Her life is rich, full, and meaningful, with or without him. And that's when he starts to see the depth of the connection he once had with you. When he realizes that you've moved on without him, he'll start to wonder if he missed his chance, if he let something truly special slip away. And that regret, it's powerful. It makes him think about everything he lost. So stop waiting around for him to finally realize your worth. Stop putting your life on pause for someone who hasn't even seen how valuable you are. When you move forward, when you grow without him, you create a space where he's forced to recognize your absence. And when that happens, he'll miss you more than he ever thought possible. Men start missing you when they realize you don't need them to be happy. Let me say that again. You don't need them to be happy. That's the moment they start to feel the absence of your presence in their life. Not because you're playing hard to get or trying to make them jealous, but because you've stopped depending on them for your happiness. When you're emotionally independent, when you're living your life with purpose, when you're not waiting around for his attention or approval, that's when he starts to notice. He starts to see that you're not just there to fulfill his needs, but that you have your own life, your own passions, your own goals. And that's when he realizes that he can't just come and go as he pleases without consequences. Emotional independence doesn't mean you don't care about him or that you're shutting him out. It means you've learned to find happiness within yourself, to not rely on someone else to complete you. It means you've built a life that's fulfilling on its own, so that when he's not around, you're not left feeling empty or lost. And when you do this, when you stop making him the center of your world, when you start living for yourself, that's when he starts to miss you, because he realizes that he's not the only one who can make you happy. He realizes that he's not the only one who can bring joy into your life. And that realization hits him hard. He starts to see that you're not just waiting around for him to show up, that you're out there living your life, thriving without him. And that's when he starts to wonder if he's made a mistake, if he's taken you for granted, if he's let something special slip away. But here's the thing, you're not doing this to make him miss you. You're doing this because you've realized your own worth, your own value. You're doing this because you've learned that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone else. And when you do this, when you start living for yourself, that's when he starts to see the woman you truly are. So keep living your life, keep pursuing your passions, keep building your happiness. Because when you do, he'll start to miss you more than you ever imagined. Men start missing you when you stop trying to fix him. Let me tell you something. A man doesn't need you to fix him. He needs you to love him, to support him, to be there for him. But trying to fix him, that's not your job. That's not your responsibility. And when you stop trying to fix him, that's when he starts to realize what he's been missing. You see, when you're constantly trying to fix a man, you're telling him that he's broken. You're telling him that he's not good enough the way he is. And let me tell you, no man wants to feel that way. No man wants to feel like he's not enough. So when you stop trying to fix him, you're telling him that you accept him for who he is. You're telling him that you love him, flaws and all. And here's the thing. When a man feels accepted, when he feels loved, when he feels like he's enough just the way he is, that's when he starts to change. That's when he starts to grow. But he can't do that if you're constantly trying to fix him. He can't do that if you're constantly pointing out his flaws and telling him how to be better. He needs to come to that realization on his own. So stop trying to fix him. Stop trying to change him. Love him for who he is. Support him in his growth. And when you do that, when you stop trying to fix him and start loving him, that's when he starts to miss you. Because he realizes that you're the one who accepts him, the one who loves him, the one who sees him for who he truly is. And let me tell you, when a man realizes that, when he realizes that you're the one who accepts him, the one who loves him, the one who sees him for who he truly is, he's going to miss you more than you can imagine. Because he's going to realize that he's never had someone like you in his life before. He's going to realize that he's never had someone who loves him the way you do, who accepts him the way you do, who sees him the way you do. So stop trying to fix him. Love him for who he is. And when you do that, when you stop trying to fix him and start loving him, that's when he starts to miss you. Because he realizes that you're the one he's been looking for all along. Men start missing you when you stop being available all the time. Let me tell you something. A man doesn't need you to fix him. He needs you to love him, to support him, to be there for him. But trying to fix him, that's not your job. That's not your responsibility. And when you stop trying to fix him, that's when he starts to realize what he's been missing. You see, when you're constantly trying to fix a man, you're telling him that he's broken. You're telling him that he's not good enough the way he is. And let me tell you, no man wants to feel that way. No man wants to feel like he's not enough. So when you stop trying to fix him, you're telling him that you accept him for who he is. You're telling him that you love him, flaws and all. And here's the thing, when a man feels accepted, when he feels loved, when he feels like he's enough just the way he is, that's when he starts to change. That's when he starts to grow. But he can't do that if you're constantly trying to fix him. He can't do that if you're constantly pointing out his flaws and telling him how to be better. He needs to come to that realization on his own. So stop trying to fix him. Stop trying to change him. Love him for who he is. Support him in his growth. And when you do that, when you stop trying to fix him and start loving him, that's when he starts to miss you. Because he realizes that you're the one who accepts him, the one who loves him, the one who sees him for who he truly is. And let me tell you, when a man realizes that, when he realizes that you're the one who accepts him, the one who loves him, the one who sees him for who he truly is, he's going to miss you more than you can imagine. Because he's going to realize that he's never had someone like you in his life before. He's going to realize that he's never had someone who loves him the way you do, who accepts him the way you do, who sees him the way you do. So stop trying to fix him. Love him for who he is. And when you do that, when you stop trying to fix him and start loving him, that's when he starts to miss you, because he realizes that you're the one he's been looking for all along.